Okay, hello there guys, welcome back to another LibGDX game development tutorial. So, in this video, I'm gonna show you what I did behind the scenes about the code. You will see a number of things that I added for the game, which basically improve the game itself and also improve the graphics and add weapons for it. So the first thing we want to see, let's go to the sprites here, and I want to show you the changes I made it here. So going back to the collision detection, it was working in the last tutorial very well. The only problem is that when you run this collision detection on Android and when it tries to load 360 files for each enemy type, you end up with a problem. You have a small delay on slow devices. It will be between half a second to a second, which is not good enough. So instead of that, I changed this method so that when you need a specific angle, you will only load the file related to the angle that you need. We will never load 360 of them. So I created a flag in the main class here, perform collision map generation, and set it to false by default. If I set it to true, it will use the old method and it will generate all the maps. So if I change sprites, I just set it to true, run the game, all sprites get generated. However, if I set it to false, nothing will be loaded. Instead, we will create 360 empty entries in memory, no loading from the file system, which is very fast. Okay, so what happens later on is that uh, you go and try to load a collision map. So get collision map from list is the function. So we get the angle here, and I add a very simple check here, which is if the value for that angle, if there is no array, if there is no collision array, in that case I want you to go and grab one from disk and set it in the list. Okay, set this collision array into the list. So now this angle has been loaded and it's in memory, and then I will return it. So basically you will only load the angles that your game needs, and the loading process will only be for the files that you only need. You will never load the files that you don't access like the previous one. And the effect of this, that even on slow devices the game is running very fast and very smooth without any problem. So this is the first change. The second change I created was to replace the sprites. So there is this website, opengamerart.org, and basically there are many people who publish their work in the public domain. Make sure that you read the license. Here you can see this is CC BY, so you have to attribute the creator. You are free to copy, redistribute material, okay, and remix this thing, okay, even commercially. Under the following terms attribution, you must give appropriate credit, provide link to the license, and indicate if changes were made. You may also do so in any reasonable manner, but not any way that suggests the license, blah blah blah. Anyway, so basically what it means, you could use that for commercial purposes. You just need to reference the person who created that. Now I don't see the author name, the full author name, so there is the handle. So I added that to the game, and you can see there are a number of ship designs, as you can see. And basically, let me show you the file itself. Go open recent sprite sheet, there you go. and let me zoom in so that you could see what I did. So this one from the sprite sheet, this one from sprite sheet, also this one. This one is on different scale and different coloring, same goes here. And this one I just, use components from here and there and create something like this, if that makes sense. Okay, and the same thing goes here. This is a copy of this one and so on. Okay, in addition I added one shot, two shots, three shots. I'll show you what these are for. Okay, so we replace the graphics, that is totally fine. Now the last thing that we added, or last thing that I managed to add, is ability to use different weapons. Okay, so this one needs a little bit of focus here. So if we go to the beginning of the file, basically I created this weapon list, and the weapon list contains information about the weapon. So it contains number of strings here. This, the first string, contains the weapon type. So we have two shots weapon type. The second entry represents the energy required. So you need 10 energy units that you collected from dead enemies or destroyed enemies in order to buy this weapon. The third one, it was about the condition, but later on I didn't use it. And this one about the type of weapon, also I'm not using it. However, it's important to consider that if since I did this, I need to increment the value by 4 to move from this weapon to the next one. So this is only an available list of weapons. So we have these weapons, and also I create a number of textures. So this one is for selecting a weapon, this one represents single shot, this is 2 shots and 3 shots. And if we go here, basically this is for selecting a weapon, this is a single shot, this is 2 shots, this is 3 shots, as you can see here. Okay, so I initialize them in the main part. By the way, this is the credit for the person here. Okay, later on I will add CC for the license itself and so on. I'm not sure, I'm not creating a sprite sheet, so that doesn't count. Okay, anyway, just make sure you abide by the license agreement. So I added 2 other buttons. So let me show you the game before I continue, because things will get confusing if you don't see what's happening. So we run the game here. Okay, and click here. Now you can see there are 2 buttons. Now this button represents the type of weapon. So 2 shots is the next weapon, and basically it requires 10 energy. Now we have 0. And this one means select the weapon we chose here. Okay, and at the top right you see your weapon type. Okay, so let me show you what's happening here. Okay, 2 energy, good. Okay, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. Okay, we just need 1 extra. Okay, so now I'm selecting this weapon, and what you can see that now we have two shots, as you can see here. Okay, so now we selected the first weapon. Now our previous selection is gone, so I click again, and now we need 20 energy units to get 3 shots weapon. Okay, so let's try to do that. Okay, go long way ahead. Okay, so we need to, okay, good. There's another one, I don't know. Okay, I got shot by it, no problem. Okay, come on. Okay, already 21, that's great. So now I am gonna select this one, and you see now we have 3 weapons. Oh, and I got destroyed, so I am back to one weapon. Anyway, so it's gone. Anyway, so you saw that how I'm using this button. This one allows me to loop on the weapons that I could purchase. Right now there is only two shots or three shots if you already have two, right? But later on I will add a shield, I will add speed up, and some other things. Okay, so and this one is being used in order to inform the game that you want to purchase that specific weapon, if that makes sense. Okay, so this one is stuck here. Okay, so let me close this one. Let me show you now the code, what's happening. So in the create part, this is straightforward. I'm creating the single shot texture, two shots texture, three shots texture, and the weapon itself. Now I added two buttons, button number 6 and 7. Okay, they work normally, not much has been done. Just go to the user input. I just set the X and Y for these buttons, so everything's straightforward. There's nothing to worry about. Now what's important is going to the game screen here. Now let me see, where is that? Update user input. Okay, so here, process user input, right? So now I added this flag to know if I should fire a shot or not. The previous code had an if statement checking if the persons keep pressing on the button, the fire button, so it starts firing auto, or just touched it for a second there and released. So the behavior need to be different. So since I am adding multiple weapons, there are a number of conditions, and I don't want to repeat these conditions. It will be exactly the same code, but it would require some repetition. So instead of that, I created this flag, and I check the condition here. So if the player is not dead and the player is exploding, and the user input is firing and the previous state was not fired, just tell the game that you want to shoot. Otherwise, it means that, well, maybe the player is not dead and he's just firing, and previously he was firing because this one didn't get executed, so basically he was firing previously. Update the timer, and if the timer is beyond specific value, tell the game to shoot again. Okay, very straightforward. Now, so if we want to shoot a bullet or a weapon, we will check the weapon itself. So for the player class, I added a string value called weapon, and it will contain the default value one shot, meaning that the player can fire a single shot at a time. Okay, so here if we have one shot, just define a shot and add it to the list of shots and continue your game. However, if your weapon is two shots, well, I create the first shot, but I want its location to be shifted by 10 pixels to the right, and add that and create a second shot, and I want its location to be shifted 10 pixels to the left. That's what it means. And if we have three shots, it's the same logic, okay, except that I'm adding a value here for the y, so that subtracting value of y, so that the two side shots will go back and we have one shot in the front, which is this one. Okay, so we are adding three shots. Very straightforward, very easy to understand. Okay, so button 5 basically is the game over button. Now let's go and check the code where we change our weapon selection. So if I'm pressing the change weapon selection, basically I will enter this loop, and this is an infinite loop here because of this condition, but we are breaking out of it right away. And the reason I created this in this way is that sometimes if you are having a weapon, you don't want to select that weapon again. So let's say, for example, you already purchased a 2 shots weapon. You don't have to purchase it again. Okay, so let me show you what's going on here. So basically, I am going to the next weapon by increasing this index by 4. If you remember, each 4 entries represent a single weapon. So I'm checking also if I'm beyond the array. I'll go back to the first one. So now, get me the weapon name and now check the following. So if the weapon name is 2 shots and the current player weapon is 1 shot, well, the player can actually buy this weapon. So I break and exit out of the loop. Now if the selection of the weapon is 3 shots and the player has 2 shots, he can purchase that, so break. And if there is no selection, just a break. Okay, so now what happens if you have 1 shot, okay, and you just went to 3 shots? So basically this will be false, right? So we will go back to the beginning of the loop and increase this by 4 and go to the next weapon and so on. So this way, if there is a weapon that is not intended to be bought and or shouldn't be bought, the game will skip that weapon for you because of this loop and because of these conditions, which will tell if you can buy a specific weapon or not. Okay, now, so this is for button number 6, which allows you to select a weapon, and this is button 7, which informs the game that you want to purchase that specific weapon that's being selected. Okay, by the way, I created also another variable in the player class, which is weapon index, which indicates our current selection. Anyway, so now if we press number 7, which means we want to select that, let's say I get the weapon name, okay, so weapon index plus 0, and then I get the weapon cost, which is weapon index plus 1. I parse that because it is an integer value, so I know how many energy units I need. So if the weapon cost is smaller than or equal to player power up value, which is the energy that the current spaceship has, well, we just say we are going to the next phase, which is purchasing the weapon. So if the weapon equals 2 shots, okay, here I am just adding an extra check that the weapon name, well, I don't need this check actually. Yeah, I think I just need to do one simple thing here. So if it is 2 shots, I don't need to do anything. I just update things normally. Now the same thing goes here, I suppose, right? Yeah. Okay, so if it is 2 shots or 3 shots, nothing gets changed. However, for other weapons, I might need to add other if statements. Maybe later on I will merge all these. Well, actually I could merge these two into a single if statement, right? So if it is like that or like that, then just do the following and that's it. And basically this is all the code needed. Now one last thing, that when you have a game over or something like that, you just need to remove the weapons and you just set the weapon to 1 shot, okay, for the player object. Now other things that the game feedback here, where you are displaying the values, the wave, the ship, the shield, and so on. For the top right corner, we are checking the current weapon of the player. So if it is 1 shot, we are rendering the single shot weapon. If it is 2 shots, we are rendering the 2 shots weapon. And if it is 3 shots, we are rendering the 3 shots weapon. And then later on, we are getting the current weapon, the current selection since we are selecting weapons, we are getting the current selection and getting the cost and declaring the values here, and then we are let me see, we are drawing the select weapon icon, right? And this is for the top button. For the next button, we are checking if it is one shot, just render single shot weapon inside the button number 6, and remember to set its cost. If it is two shots, just render that in the correct location and set the cost, and so on. There is a better way if I store all these inside an array. Instead of these, I just, write 3 statements. But anyway, I did this way because I'm lazy. Okay, so this is it. Not much has been done, but we got very good result actually. And now if we run the game, let me show you that it's still working after our changes. Or yeah, so we got the first weapon, sorry, energy unit. So let me see, can I do it in time? 2, okay, 3. Let's destroy these 3 guys. Okay, this is 5 only. Let's see. Okay, good, 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 that's fine. Come on, 9. Good, this is gonna be 10. Come on. Okay. Okay, let's go select this one. Okay, that's fine. Now we should go to 3. Okay, you can see I can only see the 3 shots weapon. Okay, we still need 7 only. We are gonna need 7. Okay, we need 2. And basically now we got all the weapons we need. So you can see now this one doesn't have anything else because we purchased all the weapons. Okay, and I got shot by a missile. Okay, that's fine. If you remember, each missile requires 2 shots, so basically 2 were absorbed by the missile and 1 continued forward. So it's working flawlessly. All our previous work, the collision detection and everything else, it's working fine. So having a good weapon actually increases our chance of defeating enemies. Now we will get the very hard one, this one, which is which keeps shooting at you. Oh, come on. Okay, we managed to kill it. There you go. So we even have 24 energy units. So the game needs to be a little bit more difficult, or maybe increase the waves later on, and so that the player get encouraged to purchase things and so on. Maybe later on I would set the maximum value for energy that you cannot exceed, and yeah, that will be much better, I suppose. So until then, so hopefully in the next video we'll start improving the levels by adding more enemies and focusing on the waves, and then later on focusing on speed up shields, adding lasers, homing missiles, and adding enemies. So that will be all for today. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.